What? He lives.
John G. Zip Johnson.
Holy cow.
I was sufficiently bugged by people I respect to join.
So it wasn't me for two reasons. One, I didn't bug you, and two, I know you don't really. No.
Incorrect on one of two.
How you been?
Been interviewing. Uh, Actually, I have an interview right after this. So I don't like it, but it's been different. I've enjoyed the summer. I got a smoker, made a lot of ribs. It's been a good time.
I've been going out sitting on a boat taking sunset pictures.
Did you take this?
Yep.
It looks nice.
So we go to Anchorage until the crab boaters come by at like 4 a.m. and they don't like where people are anchoring in that little Anchorage area. So they just right next to you, bounce you right out of your boat.
How rude.
It was very rude. They took Sunday off at least.
It's kind of them.
But I was getting hopeful that come Monday they would still like be sleeping in. No, 4 a.m. exact same thing the next time. Like, okay, clearly they don't like us here. Yeah, it has been a minute. So I threw stuff on the agenda, not expecting special company. So if you've got stuff you want to chat about, jump on in there.
I don't. I haven't even looked at the agenda. I didn't know people were still using containers. Just kidding.
They still exist. We haven't AIified everything yet, much to people's disappointment. I made a promise last week that when we merged something, I would immediately go back and put in this PR to clarify some of the stuff that we were taking out of the spec so that the language would be there. So, to my promise, Derek, I kept it. I did put the PR right back out there.
Oh, well, I haven't even looked at it yet. Okay.
I made it! Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I came. Sorry, I had to go take the pork off the smoker.
What are you smoking, Jeff?
Uh, two pork butts.
Nice. As a barbecue enthusiast, I support this.
Keep it simple. It's waiting for me for lunch as soon as this is over. So no dilly dallying.
Love that.
I got nothing for that. I feel like I should have something, but nothing. So on this one, we changed some of the verbiage, John, just so you're clear on why on earth we're doing this. We last week, let's find the one we merged in because we don't merge all the time. We did add chain guard to the extension list there, in case you're curious. Not that
La
you're that
la.
curious anymore, but they did get added to our extension list. Where is the one I'm looking for? Oh, somebody catch sort by action, right? Recently updated. Where's the most recently merged? Remove reference from the spec. That's what I'm looking for, I think. I was annoyed at all the things that were pointing to reference in the spec, so I took out things that were saying this is a reference. I'm like, other people have different definitions for reference, so we call it a tag or digest. But then we came down into the endpoints at the very end, and we were saying reference for the blob upload location. I was like, well, if I change that, you can upload to any location. So let me just say it's the blob upload location. Well, once I did that, I got rid of some of the verbiage in here that said, hey, we just push to a location that has a certain path structure to it. There is a structure in here we documented at some point. I'm scrolling to find it, driving everybody nuts with my scrolling here. Sorry about that. Location, location, location. It's like the best part of real estate, right? Somewhere in here we clarified the location needed to have the full, the /v2 slash whatever the repo, blobs, all that good stuff. And that got nuked in the process. And people were disappointed. So I put back in there a note that just said, hey, just so we've got it, this is where people typically do with this v2 blobs uploads and some kind of unique ID in there. So clarify that. I said should because Derek said we should say should, but honestly, considering all this other stuff is saying the blob may be pushed to another server, may be absolute, not a full path. The should
Since
feels a
when
little
do you
strong.
listen to what I say?
When you're like one of the two people that's going to hit approve on this, and I can't get anything passed if you don't say it.
Eh.
I mean, it's true, right? We got to get some maintainers in here. That might be a good discussion for today as well. Boy, everybody's showing up here. So there we go. That's all I kind of threw in that one. I know I'm boring describing it, but that was the full description. Any questions, comments, discussions, debates? Okay, we'll find something more interesting in here. Jeff, I put comments.
You did, and I love almost every single one of them.
Okay. Let's only work with the stuff you love. Let's ignore everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the comments are, I think the questions are good. I think probably the biggest thing here is kind of the format, is sort of how important the format is. The original thing I kind of had taken from the refers implementation, which at least love it or hate it, did keep using existing data structures. So the first implementation of this, I just had returning descriptors and then putting like the timestamps and the status in as annotations. That is admittedly hacky. The goal there was, though, to at least keep using descriptors. What you kind of propose here, I agree, is significantly cleaner to implement and to parse and read, but then we're sort of introducing a new data structure in the response. I don't really have strong feelings anywhere, so maybe that's more of a open question to how others might view it.
So this is kind of how it ends up looking later on. I don't know where the scroll went funny. I was kind of threw a history in there on one of my projects, and for each tag, there's going to be a slice, and in that slice, there'll be this field that has time, whether it was deleted, if that shows up, and then the descriptor that was added or deleted. And then when you have multiple of them, like I've got for this example here, you just have multiple entries in the array. Each one has a time, each one has a descriptor, but you could potentially add more and more stuff on top of that in the future. I was commenting that I was thinking it'd be interesting to add something like an audit. Who did this or what did this? Whether it was a garbage collection went through and deleted something, or whether it was an individual user that pushed something, you can track it back to the login. Thought those might be interesting details for people to have at some point. So that was the method to that madness. All right. So that's where I was going with this. Everybody is silent today. They're just stunned that John's here. You don't have a wizard outfit though, John.
And I think prior art, John will correct me, but I believe the chain guard tag history does a list of just digest and timestamp.
That I believe that's right, and I can, if I'm wrong, I'll confirm that and let you know, but assume that's right. Otherwise,
Fantastic hat.
They implemented like start and end timestamps, and also I think the ability to go in reverse. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out going through this. When I do a create, if the tag already exists, do I need to go back and say I'm doing a delete in there or not? And I felt like it was excessive, but I could understand people wanting to see a delete of the tag at the exact same time a create's happening. Does introduce the possibility that someone would reverse those two if you put them with the same timestamp, though. If they're trying to look back through the audit log and trying to figure out was this created or deleted when.
Yeah, I think originally I was leaning. I mean, I think there's maybe value to that, but also in some ways it makes it a little harder to determine. Because at least if you only have this is when it was created and then only do it a delete if there's an explicit delete on it, then you kind of can tell the difference between when it was updated versus when it was actually removed. If there's just a create and then there's another one create, you know that the tag always existed. You can just look at the timestamps to see what it was at a particular time. If you have a create and a delete for every single one, then you kind of have to build this big overlapping thing of, well, where's the window and where does it fall?
Yeah, I was specifically looking through your example and seeing, okay, you've got the create and the delete happening at the exact same time here.
Yeah,
But
so
then
Those are
you
different
also,
days.
okay, so they are different days. But then you also deleted the one that you didn't create because it's different digest.
Look, we can't all be perfect.
I think this would be
I,
slightly less ambiguous if the examples had more resolution on the timestamps, because there's no possible way that someone could make two REST API calls, even on a local system, within the same like nanosecond.
but different days.
Different days, sure. But I think to your point of the ambiguity, if the timestamps are the same, it is conceivable that on a fast local system, you could make two REST API calls on the exact same second to delete and create, and that they could complete within the same second.
Yeah, we just say RFC, what, 3993 or something, 3339 or something, whatever the RFC is for that one.
Right,
At,
which doesn't prescribe whether or not you put in like nanoseconds.
yeah,
They're
so it's
optional.
we've got the ability there.
But we have learned in the spec that whatever you put in the examples speaks louder to implementers than the actual spec text does.
I mean,
I'm
personally,
not mad about that at all.
I'm probably going to go to the second for a side reason, which is that I've got reproducibility in a lot of the stuff, so those timestamps only go down to the second granularity with the
I
source
have a
data epoch.
question.
Yeah, ask away.
The results must be sorted in descending order by the history entry timestamp. I imagine that with Tina's example, the database, even if it's only giving second precision, uh, it knows the total order of events and the sort, like even if they have the same timestamp, I would imagine the order that they returned is the order in which they happened, right? And so I wonder if this sentence about ordered by the timestamp is weaker than it could be, which is like the order of events, in fact. But
But
I don't know.
nobody's going to read that sentence, is the point I'm making. They're going to look at this example, see that it has second resolution, and they're going to set their database to only store second resolution because that's all they have to return. And then they're not going to have the order of events. They're going to have the second resolution timestamps in their database.
That would surprise me. Um, if I did that, I would be surprised. But I guess yeah, you
Yeah.
should imagine someone will do that.
To be fair, John, it would surprise me if you did that also, yes.
Okay, yeah, good.
But it would also surprise me if basically any other implementer of this spec didn't do that.
Hack. Okay. I I do think it's like kind of, I don't know. I haven't parsed this entire PR, but like the fact that the ordering is based on the timestamp and not, I guess time isn't real, so what I'm saying maybe is even less useful. But never mind. I'll yield the floor and continue reading.
It's got a whole lot of comments on it too, so a lot to read. Yeah, the thing that kind of caught my attention when we were putting this in the annotations is that to do that sorting, if it's in annotations, if you actually sort it, would be a very convoluted. Let me look up and try to figure out which of these two annotations exist on the thing, pull that one out, parse the timestamp into a time value, and then use that for sorting. That's some effort.
I mean, the whole point of that timestamp format is that you can just sort it lexicographically, right?
True. You still got to figure out which of the two.
Like this is a really simple JQ one-liner. Not even a
There,
convoluted one. This is a simple one.
there we
I,
go. It's
I
JQ again.
I don't expect anyone to sort these, right? Like
Yeah.
I would expect implementers to just take this ordering and totally ignore the timestamps for the purposes of the ordering.
I mean, I guess that depends on the task. If you're trying to figure out, what is the history of this and did the thing am I asking about, was it in here? Yeah. But if you're trying to figure out what was the digest last week, if you're trying to do a cool down type of thing on a Docker registry or a container registry where you're just trying to say, hey, I only want to pull latest, whatever latest was a week ago. Well, now you're parsing timestamps.
Yeah. I mean, what I imagine, it's kind of analogous to looking up a file in a tar stream is like the thing you'd like to do is just take the first result you get. And so if I were trying to implement that, I would just page through these results until I get a timestamp that is, the two timestamps that fence the point in time I'm curious about, and then I would stop reading, right? But I wouldn't like go and sort before doing that because I would just assume that they're already sorted. The must here is sufficient, I think, for that to work out. But yeah, I can't imagine doing a sort myself based on this timestamp. I would just assume that the order was the actual order of events. This is not a useful contribution, I think. I'm thinking out loud because I feel like I'm obligated to say something because everybody made a big deal about me being here, but I'll just keep reading.
No, I mean, I think there is, I think especially if we change this to be more of the format that Brandon said, where it's not a created timestamp and a deleted timestamp, it's just here's a timestamp and then a Boolean on deleted, true or false kind of a thing, then the sorting sort of becomes easier in that mechanism. And then, yeah, I agree that then you could probably simplify that sentence to just results must be sorted in the order of the history entries and just leave off the timestamp portion, just to imply that they must be stored in order and returned in order.
I am wary of like any spec language that requires a linearizable database to be used instead of something that's eventually consistent, but I do think you probably want that here, right? But it's a thing to think about.
Eventually consistent with tags is kind of
DNS.
sketchy. Yeah. It's the one part of the whole registry that we're very sensitive on being very linear.
I mean, I also am queuing up a manifest listing endpoint proposal, so we can just bypass tags entirely.
I was surprised we didn't go that direction.
I think these are different use cases, but related, and some, I mean, some overlap, but I think different use cases.
So another one that I was throwing in there was on the pagination. Because I think a lot of the pagination, we went back to, find it here, back to the old number of responses, and then the client has to look at the before date and assume all that. I feel like registry implementers are a lot more interested in just having that link header and using that. And if there's a number of responses that the client wants, they can ask for it, but the registry might kind of ignore that. Am I terrifying people by saying the registry might ignore that?
No, because I've implemented a registry that ignores that, as you probably are very well aware. Um,
Not that you've done it, I just know they exist.
what something I find weird about what's in the proposal is that we're essentially like listing items and we're returning an object. I guess this is true of tags already, but like I almost wish instead of an object containing a list, this was just a list of JSON objects, like almost JSON lines type format. Um, because you
Didn't
kind of
it?
have to parse each page, and you don't have to, but the easiest thing to do for this implementation would be to use like Go's JSON parser, parse the entire page of results in memory and process a page at a time, instead of like you could do a streaming list um, of just, I don't know, JSON line style thing. That might be too much of a departure from what we're already doing, but has that already been discussed?
Iterators aren't real, John.
They can't hurt you.
Doesn't JSON v2 solve all those issues?
Yeah, kind of.
JSON v2 gives you more primitives for you to solve these issues. John's point is that this could be trivial if we just did JSON L on the wire.
Yeah.
And then the difference between requesting one page with 100 items or two pages with 50 items each is nothing. The response is identical.
I I would say that's probably more interesting on a tag listing thing than a tag history. Per se, most things outside of like the latest tag, which love it or hate it is a thing, don't have thousands of entries. Um, Tag listing, I think that would be a really interesting thing. Now, whether or not that's interesting enough to then make more of a standard across all listing endpoints, I am all for that as an option. I also don't want to go down delaying something that's useful until we figure out a perfect and or new
Yeah,
paradigm of doing things too.
I think part of why that came out to me is I'm trying to see, like, I don't know how people feel about this, but reusing descriptors and not having to define new data structures is nice, and I think part of like why this exists as the proposal. But you know what Brandon has here of like defining a new type, it's more compact than having like a very long descriptor string and annotations. And as is with the proposal, like you do actually have a new data structure, which is the type that wraps this list of descriptors. Um, I think, unless it's just,
I thought it was just a list, but I mean, I admit I haven't read it in a few weeks, months.
oh no, you're right. This is just a list.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
I guess what what might be nice is to just drop the open and close. But no, never mind. You're right. I'm off on a tangent. That's not useful.
I think it is useful because if this is just returning a JSON array, we have invented a new container format. Containers may be a bad word here. We have invented a new JSON schema that doesn't exist anywhere else in the spec today, except as a subschema of another type of object.
Yeah. And I do think it may be worth defining that as its thing because it's pretty generic. And if this is useful for multiple endpoints in the future, then like this is a nice thing to talk about.
If you
Oh, this is able,
squint, this format as is just an image index.
right?
It's just missing the trappings of an image index. And it feels weird to define a completely different schema here just to remove a couple lines of an image index.
Are
Like
you
we
getting
should,
at like we could make this an image index, or we could
yes, we have
unwrap
two
it?
choices here in my
Yeah.
mind. Either this becomes an image index and then we don't have a new schema, or we do something more interesting instead, like JSON-L.
To tie it again, I think the tag listing thing that I had put forth as well had a similar thing of just a list of descriptors with annotations. So I would say that fits the exact same pattern as this. Just kidding. I did that as a image index.
Yeah, because a list of descriptors is an index in OCI parlance. That's literally how we represent a list of descriptors. Consistently across both the distribution spec and the image spec. Unless they're a list of layers, in which case we represent that as a manifest, not as an index. But in this case, it is a list of manifest descriptors, which is literally an index.
I do find something very appealing about being able to snapshot a tag history as an image index and push it somewhere. But
Yes.
Push it back as a refer against itself.
sure, yeah. Why not?
And then if, you were someone who was crazy enough to use, I don't know, an OCI layout as your registry backend, then you already have the data type necessary to support this as a concrete object if that were something that you wanted to do.
To feel like that runs into like the weirdness of paginating an image index.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we already
Which
did
we
that
have
though.
with referrers, right?
How
We
exactly
already set the precedent that this is how we do things. Not that it was good, but it is the thing that we did.
I do like consistency.
So I'll throw another question in here. What should implementations do when they're thinking about garbage collecting old history entries? Not the thing that the history points to itself, because that can potentially be deleted and whatnot, but do we have to keep an item on the history list indefinitely? Can we go through and say we're only going to keep the last 10 entries or the last year of entries or something like that?
I believe, well, there was a line in there around the tag history. Tag history should. keep manifest after they've been deleted, and it should remain query after the tag is deleted. So I think there's some should logic in there. Um, I'm weary of adding hard limits.
I don't think we can be prescriptive here
Yeah.
because of corporate retention policies. Like there are legal structures that already exist that will limit us external to anything we could put in this language.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking for is to make sure we've got enough outs in here for those people that have corporate policies, that we're not buying ourselves with a must or something that says you cannot get rid of history entries.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's even the history may be deleted after the repository is deleted. So I think there is language in there where it can be removed if necessary or wished.
Or if, this feature didn't exist in the spec yet, and so no one was collecting history except a select few. Can't resynthesize history that doesn't exist.
I've got it. I'm trying to share it.
Yeah. I know you do.
I think
I
it's
don't.
reasonable to mention just somewhere in the spec, like as much history as they have should be surfaced, which allows you to have. I think some language that indicates to implementers on either side that like this may not be a complete picture of everything that's ever been is useful to know, because some registries will almost certainly truncate. They have to.
Yeah. I think my out language is here where it says they may be deleted. Well, you say after the repository is deleted, I would make that even more flexible. I would just say tag history may be deleted by the registry at its own discretion. That way the
And we
out's there for anybody who's got a policy or that wants to implement some kind of garbage collection of this stuff. Once you go down the path of doing garbage collection on that, that's where I come to the other thought, which was when people start to query on things like a digest, that 400 is probably not the right answer. I would honestly just say 200 and an empty response if you don't see it. And the logic behind that is thinking that in this case, the digest is just a filter on the responses, and you've got responses, it's just not one of them. And you don't know that it's never existed, you just know you don't have it.
Yeah, that was one that came up last week and I didn't get updated in time. So I think we were going to take the same approach on the repository not existing either.
Yeah.
It's just a flat 200. That way you can differentiate between empty list. It exists, or the history endpoint is implemented, but there's nothing here versus the extension is not implemented at all.
Yeah. The empty index is like the zero value in indexes. Go people like our zero values. All right, anything more for this?
I have a question.
Ask away.
Um, there's a before timestamp, but not an after timestamp in the optional query parameters.
I think Mike was asking about that.
I'm thinking about something I like to do often is to like list the full results at once and then incrementally update it over time, and being able to specify, hey, I only care about entries older than the newest, they're newer than the newest thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen. Um, I was gonna ask if we want to do that at like the HTTP level with like e tags or something, but you could do that with these query parameters, but not if we only have before.
Yeah, there's definitely a use case for that. The only reason that before was done and not others was just in the vein of not, yeah, trying to be careful about how many options are available.
Yeah.
Um, and then sort of the bike shedding around that, is this a before and an after? Is this a before and a since, or is this a older than? Absolutely, that can be a useful thing of, yeah, give me all new tags in the last week since that's the last time I queried this. Um, I think there's also well, technically speaking, you can just give me back the last 10 tags, and if that includes everything I care about, then great. If not, let me page back a little further until I do find where I'm at. So I think the reason it was left out is there technically is a mechanism already to page until you get to where you want. But there definitely is a use case for that too.
I feel like you added the before because you need it for the pagination. After has a different use case that I agree with. I think it's good to have. And if we
I'm
do
gonna leave that
pagination
as
with
a
the link
comment.
header, sorry, John, what was that?
So I'm just gonna put my thought as a comment here so I don't forget. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. And so if we do pagination with the link header, there's still a good value to have the after in there. Someone's still going to want before as well, but
I'd probably call it since rather than after. I don't know. That seems like it is easier to understand what it is meaning, since we're sort of
yeah.
talking before a descending value is kind of backwards already.
So John, do you have e-tag supports on your registries?
Not as much as I'd like.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, since is a good word for that one, Jeff. So I'm in agreement there. All right, have we beaten this one to death? I feel like I tried to implement something that come back with all the questions this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two, I mean, maybe reiterating the summary of that. Um, I think we're leaning towards doing this as well, I don't know. We didn't really decide. Did
We
we sort
didn't.
of want to go towards this like history format, or just say it's going to be an index of descriptors? Or yeah, do it, just keep that. But I think otherwise, yes, I think the link header is appropriate. Doing a since or an after is appropriate. Changing the missing or unknown digest or unknown repository would just be a 200 empty list. And then I think the sort order is just implied of this is the order of events. Just make that wording a little stronger rather than saying this is ordered by timestamp. It's just this is the order of the entries.
So I think this is a good chance to poll the audience here on what people think about whether we should have a higher level structure that has a descriptor embedded in it with fields like time and deleted, or do we put everything in the descriptor and make it annotations in the descriptor? We have like 2 or 3 opinions. I want to get others.
I'll make it a
So
threat. If nobody comes off mute, I'm going to hog the airtime.
I was going to say it's either going to be
Like
Tion or
I like in the
Sanjay.
body. I like in the body for the description. The descriptors like that.
You like it in the descriptor
Yeah.
as an annotation? How do others feel? It's like a general survey here. Tion, what do you got? You want to come off mute? Say something.
I do want to come off mute. Um, I think if we make a new struct here, we have to decide where to put that go struct. The distribution spec doesn't have any.
Um, we do.
Some that
Pretty,
users actually import? I don't think so. They all live in the
import
image spec.
import maybe not, but I think we do actually have
I mean, we've got your
specs.
conformance stuff.
No,
What the heck is in
tag
here?
listing. Tag listing is a structure.
That's insane. Why does this even exist? This shouldn't
Sorry,
exist.
sorry to burst your bubble there.
That does burst my bubble, but also I think referrers using an index instead was an admission that this was the wrong pattern.
I'm going to say the reason that referrers use the index from my memory was because we went through a process doing the fallback support. And we wanted the same response,
Yeah.
whether it came back from the fallback tag or the other way. So,
Yes, but that's also a compelling reason to continue doing it, right? Because it means you have the same structs, the same data types, the same parsing code. You can store them in all the same places. Like John mentioned, you could snapshot it in a registry. Could literally take the tag history and just bam, upload it to a registry as is. That has some phenomenal properties to it that anything else we do doesn't have.
I love the BAM reference. I'm thinking of Emerald doing his chef routine.
I think I'm probably leaning towards an index just from the admission of consistency is nice, even if it's not always ideal.
Sajay, you've been quiet, but I know you probably also have another meeting going on simultaneously. Are you able to jump off mute?
No, no, this is the only this is too much joy to kind of drop. I'm happy to listen. Um, I mean, I'm hearing what John and Tianan are saying. I think there's you're not adding too much value by changing the types now. So, snapshotting the index is something that will really help, even as a if you wanted to put this on a backing store somehow in the OCI layout. So overall, it's got so much benefits to not having yet another struct and things like that. Yeah.
All right. Unanimous. I know there may be the one outcast there, but I can adjust. Is Tianan trying to say nobody's using it, or is he like disappointed? Hey, there are actually people that import this thing.
And you could count the actual importers on like one hand.
But I'm shocked it's like a non-zero length.
Yeah, I was also shocked that it's non-zero, but not shocked that it's basically zero. Effectively zero. If
Your
a
bubble is
struct
just
were
so
to
burst.
land, if a struct were to land in this directory as part of this PR, I would not import the distribution spec in my code to use it. I would copy paste it.
That's your following the Go proverb there at that point.
Yep,
A little bit of copying.
yep.
I mean, ideally, people have wanted the tag listing in the form of the descriptor list anyway. So it's odd that we still stick with the tag list here. So
Yep. Tag list is a mistake. We should fix that one too.
that's
Jeff's
another
working on
day.
it.
We are. Come on.
Yeah.
And by fix it, I mean we'll probably fix one aspect and break three other things, but you know.
So one of the concerns that I threw up there, if we do this as annotations inside of a descriptor list, does anybody think in the future they might start pulling up annotations from the child manifest? In which case you might have a namespace collision in there. Or are we just going to assume that this annotation list at this level is always controlled by the registry and we're not going to look at anything inside the child content?
I I think there was a change that we made a couple weeks ago that was kind of around that, was instead of using the org open containers image tag labels, to go ahead and create the org open containers distribution tag labels to sort of make them, this is like a unique namespace for registries or for the distribution spec. If I don't know, like if someone wanted to
Yeah.
reuse that or is already using that,
Didn't,
sorry.
didn't we have this same discussion with referrers and decide that in the context of that response, the annotations provided that are part of that response are always the ones specified by that response? That if you do pull up, you have to either delete or overwrite those values?
I think we would overwrite them if we had something out. Is there anything that refers to we're injecting?
I don't remember.
I
I
think
just remember
everything is
having
pulled
this
up.
conversation before.
Yeah, I think everything in the refers response is pulled up. I don't think
Yeah.
we're injecting anything.
But I'm certain we've had this exact conversation before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The risk of us overwriting is that we could add a new annotation in the future that we want to inject. And then you get in this odd scenario where, depending on the version of the registry, you might have a registry that doesn't implement it and it pulls up a value versus a registry that sets and overwrites its own value
Yeah, and that
located. So you
registry
don't know
closes
which.
that CVE by deleting the value that it pulls up. Problem solved.
Yeah, but from the client side, you don't know if you're talking to a new or an old registry that is overriding the
Correct.
value versus pulling it up.
Yeah.
Because it is a CVE in the registry that is not something the client can really work around reasonably, so the registry must fix it.
Yeah.
But the tag namespace is still open containers dot distribution, right? I mean, the annotation, why would an image or a manifest actually have those annotations? It just, I mean, they could, but it doesn't make any sense.
That's why I use the dreaded CVE word, because the only way this would happen is if it's malicious.
Yeah.
I'm thinking either malicious or someone that is working with an old registry that didn't implement it and they're trying to implement it themselves by some hacky method.
Or someone doing a John but doing it weird and copying this exact response into a registry but like splatting it out as individual tags instead, which would be cute, but also would cause the problem that we're talking about. But I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think that these annotations are load-bearing enough, and I can't imagine a new one that would be, that makes that something to worry about, really.
Actually, thinking about this, I'll throw out the easy answer, which is if someone ever does pull up annotations, they should just filter out anything with this prefix. Just blanket filter everything with that prefix, and then you don't have to worry about anybody colliding with your namespace in the future.
We don't have an annotations document or spec inside distribution, right? So
Not
this,
yet.
yeah, I mean, this might be a good opportunity to say that this namespace or this prefix is reserved for the registry and kind of like move on. And then we can decide what to do with the image spec if people start doing something weird. Like,
Well, by design of the naming, we're saying this is part of the distribution spec, but I think
yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
nice for distribution spec to say, here are the ones that we've defined. And
I mean,
so as part of this PR.
yeah, it's obvious when you look at it. It's just about what people decide to do with it.
So what if we define the pull-up functionality such that we strip anything from the pulled-up annotations that starts with that prefix?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's where I was going.
Yeah. Okay,
Which once
violent
you,
agreement. Let's do it.
yeah, once you strip by the prefix, that eliminates all future collisions.
Yep, perfect.
I mean, the one good
Solved.
thing is it gives registries an opportunity to dictate the behavior, right, in some way of what these APIs are, because you're not at the mercy of what is pushed from the client. especially for when you have a lot of publishers, you don't know what all is going through, and that way there's no. Yeah, I mean, I think you're in agreement. I don't hear any concern there.
It's the best kind of OCI meeting ever. We're all in agreement. All right, while we got some warm bodies here, anything more on this before changing gears? Okay. Well, the other thing I was thinking of, since I don't think anybody wants to talk about the specs that are in here, do we want to chat about adding another maintainer or two over this list? Derek said he was in agreement. I think it would be good to do. We don't have Mike around. I'm betting we could get Mike to agree. So, John, while you're here, was that a thumbs up? I see a thumbs up. Okay. So we just got to figure out who wants to volunteer of. So Jeff find a hat. Did I miss that? He did find a hat. Okay. I had to get I can't see all the things at once here. I only get to pick from 4 at a time. Like it. All right. Who are we nominating? Any suckers that want to get on this list? Tianani wants some more responsibility.
I'm not opposed.
I feel like it's Tianan or Jeff.
I just spent the whole meeting making an anti-platform though, right? Like I'm not making friends today.
I love some respectful disagreements because that's how you get the best answers out of the spec.
Fair.
If everybody is just going along the same path together and never disagreeing, then we just keep going down odd paths and not realize we're messing things up.
Yeah. Don't we have 2 company limit on maintainers lists?
We have a 2 company limit on the TOB, I
That's
think.
just the TOB?
I
Thought that was
think.
TDC also.
So if that is the case, I'll go back and double check that as well. But yeah, that's okay. Sam says TOB only. All right.
Nice.
The leader has spoken.
Sam needs a leader hat. That's all I'm saying.
I wish we just all coordinate ahead of time. We could all get some funny hats together.
Yeah, I think it's TOB only.
All right. Well, you will be suckered into this one way or another. Anything else we're missing for the day that we'd like to chat about? Community inviter is broken. Oh no, not again.
Did it hit its limit?
No, it's just broken.
Oh,
They like if you click on that link, it goes nowhere anymore. And
huh.
inviter.co doesn't seem to have
Exist
a
anymore?
thing for open containers either. I
Okay.
opened a service desk ticket for this and the CNCF one, and it looks like now there's a new CNCF inviter thing for that Slack,
Okay.
but not for the OCI Slack yet.
So Tienan just grabbed what I would have grabbed, which is like the one directly from the workspace. That could be a temporary solution.
Yeah, I
And
mean, we could stick
yeah,
that as a temporary thing, but
yeah,
those all have limits of like, I think
yeah.
it's like 100 or 400 or something like that.
They had upped it at one point to like 1,000, but it was but it's also time bound. So
Yep.
after a certain period of time, it'll stop working.
I think we could sign up again for inviter.co if someone is a Slack admin, which I don't think I am.
I don't know if I am or not. Let me see. think I am either. I think Mr. Chris is our sole admin. Chris.
Yeah, so maybe Mr. Chris could add someone else as an admin to handle these
Okay.
things too.
I'll signal him and be like, hey buddy. Okie doke.
We got not the bus factor, but the lottery factor of 1.
Well, it's like a flaw, I think, in the way they did it. It's like in a workspace, there can be one super admin and that's it. And there can be other people who are managers, but there can be only one, like Highlander style, for like the grand hope of a Slack workspace. So, which
You
is
took the line. I was going to jump in there with that line.
So it's posted for CNCF too?
Yeah, CNCF was also using Community Inviter, but it looks like Daniel Krupp moved it over to some temporary thing on Netlify for now, which
Okay.
if you give me a minute, I will link to.
Okay, and I'll see if Daniel can take care of that for you guys or for OCI, because I suspect Daniel might have Chris's stuff. Thank you. I'm gonna send that over and ask Chris if he can.
If it even runs on Netlify. Nice. All right. Well, we're at the end of the hour here. Sadly, I didn't run and get another hat to throw on. So, Jeff, thanks for repping the team hat. And thanks for putting up with all the questions on the PRs there.
I love them. I mean, I'm gonna fill all of the agendas for the next few weeks, months on things. So one of
Nice.
these days we'll start getting some of these approved.
Well, I will nominate Tiana as another maintainer, and then you'll have an inside connection there to just get everything merged instantly. Problem solved. Although Tiana's going to start rejecting some of these things too. Just because he
You're
can.
asking for an argument.
Alrighty,
That
folks.
Monty Python sketch. Is that Monty Python? Yeah.
I think Jory would know the answer to that one. Wouldn't she watch it?
Wait. Sorry, I was doing. What was the reference to Monty Python?
You're asking for an argument? This room is for arguments. You want whatever down the hall?
Oh yes. It is. That is definitely Monty Python. I'm introducing my children to Monty Python, as every good parent should, in my opinion.
Outstanding. All right, everybody. Till next week. Thanks for all the great entertainment. Can't say thanks to John because he ran away, but we'll be back next week. Maybe we'll sucker John into showing up again.
Enjoy your pork butt, Jeff.
I will.
Send pictures in OCI Slack. Okay, bye.
I'm only saying I'm on IRC now that I know that's a thing.
Oh. Right,
Cheers,
bye.
all.
Wow.